I am now recording.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Con American Sci-Fi Classics Potluck Feast. And I think I got the name right this year. Last year I made you do it.
Yeah, and this year I can't remember because it's a name and it's not wearing a name tag like directly in my field of view. And so I can't read that name tag, so I don't know. Because I closed Facebook before we started recording.
It's fine.
And we're recording an episode that we're not going to edit because we're not going to have time to edit it. So
it's great.
Everything is going to be fabulous.
I am your co-host, Charlie Mushaw, and at this potluck, I fashioned myself to be something of the Jell-O mold that your grandmother brings that's filled with, all sorts of fruits and nuts, and sometimes there's some cheese involved, all in a nice bun pan green Jell-O concoction. Welcome to my potluck. Welcome to my part of the potluck.
There you go. I am your other co-host, multi-award winning novelist Michael G. Williams, and I am the thing that I actually make for Thanksgiving, which is slightly overly complicated cinnamon, pumpkin, ginger scones, which are a little pretentious and also have a little of everything thrown in. And in the end, they're just like sweet.
This reminds me of when we were at the Carolina Theater and we went up to the concession stand to grab some food. And the person working the counter, we ordered very different things. And the person working the counter goes, "These are very different, but also kind of the same." And I feel like that's what we just did. So yeah, there you go. That was not planned. Much. You had no idea that I was going to talk about that. So
no, but the second you started talking about the food at the potluck, I was like, "Oh, I'm a scone." Yeah. I'm a complicated biscuit. Huh?
I actually have my grandmother's Jell-O mold recipe on a little index card.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Great. Yeah. I'm the only one that likes it, but
But hey, that just means more for you.
Yeah, it's good.
So speaking of Thanksgiving, the Dragon Con American Sci-Fi Classics Track often focuses its efforts and attentions on films. Not exclusively, but that is a big part of it. And Thanksgiving is a time of travel, as we all know. And it's also travel that often involves seeing people that we find strange and perhaps terrifying. And in my case, some years it even involved like traveling up to the mountains to see people that I found strange and terrifying. And the only Thanksgiving themed movie that I can think of that just like readily springs to mind is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
Which is about travel. And so I thought, well, if I take travel plus the strange and terrifying, plus long distances, plus movies, plus Thanksgiving, plus the mountains of Western North Carolina, what do I get? And so for this very special video episode of Arcane Carolinas, we're going to talk about the United States' only known UFO landing pad, which is in North Carolina.
Wow. How did this fly under my radar?
So the official name of the only United States UFO landing pad is Willis Observatory.
Okay.
Willis Observatory, it's a privately owned astronomical observatory. It's in Bakersville, North Carolina.
Yes, we talked about this a little bit at one point. No? Is that
we talked about a different one?
Oh. Go on.
Yeah. So at first I was like, oh, well, we've already talked about that when I read about this. And then I was like, no, this is actually a different place. So it's in Bakersville, North Carolina, which is up in the mountains. It's roughly in the area of the following places, just in case you've heard of any of them. Spruce Pine, Little Switzerland,
Yep.
or more relative to our podcast, Brown Mountain, of the Brown Mountain Lights. It's like just a stone's throw from the Brown Mountain Lights. And originally this area was one of the Cherokees' hunting grounds. It was one of the places they referred to as a summer camp, in that it was where they would go and hunt and fish and harvest during the growing seasons. And then they didn't build permanent towns there. They just sort of like would move through, gather stuff, and then keep going. And it's not terribly far from where their border was with the Catawba before European settlers arrived, which is one of the reasons why I didn't have a lot in the way of permanent settlements. Partly the winters there can be very harsh, and partly there's a little too close for comfort for both of them.
A little space is good.
Yeah, exactly. So Willis Observatory declared themselves the United States' first official UFO landing pad by designating a large, flat, open field that is covered in grass as the ideal place for a UFO to land in the United States.
Sure.
And it's, it's higher elevation, not a lot around to distract them on their way in, nice big flat open space. They say on their website that they hope one day to host as many as 3 landings a year, but they're still sort of waiting for them to pick up.
Won't really be unidentified at that point, will it?
I guess that's when they're going to be changing UFO to IFO. If it ever comes to fruition,
Right. Also, what is in this town that would attract anything to want to land there?
Well, we're going to get there.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah. So,
well, the diner serves real mean. Fill in your favorite diner specialty.
Right. When I started reading about this, my assumption was, well, this is just going to be some janky roadside attraction, like up in the mountains, and it's going to be on par with like a low grade diamond mine, gem mine kind of place. Like it'll just be kind of like they're there to pick some people's pockets on the way by to someplace else. That is not at all the case. Willis Observatory is actually a serious research astronomical observatory. They have 5 professional grade telescopes on site. They have a solar research telescope that they use to do daytime observations, and it is sufficiently powerful that they it's like a research quality telescope to be owned by like a college astronomy department.
Yeah.
And they use that to do observations of solar flares, solar prominences, all kinds of stuff. And people visiting the observatory are able to use it to look at the sun during the day. Then
it's open to the public?
Yeah, totally.
Go on. I'm like flabbergasted.
And they have 2 telescopes that are for more general, like viewing of astronomical objects.
How did you keep this from me? How long have you known about this?
Like a week. I've been sitting on this for like a week.
Right.
I'm not kidding. So they have 2 other telescopes, like I said, for like more general viewing of like planets and comets and things like that. And then they have 2 deep space astrophotography research telescopes that can be used to view like objects in deep space.
Yeah.
It is privately owned, but it's run by a board of directors. They have staff dedicated to doing student and teacher outreach for the public schools at high school and middle grades levels in all the counties around them and the county that they're in. They have multiple working research astronomers and physicists who are partners with them, and they do like astronomy lessons online, and they do, like all kinds of stuff where they like coordinate efforts with this observatory to advance their own research and to give visitors opportunities to look at stuff, cool things like that. They also have model rocket demos. And fun. Like they'll teach kids how to safely build and operate a model rocket and stuff like that.
This place sounds great.
Yeah, they also they have a fire pit. They have like a place set up where they can have 70 people watch a movie outdoors.
Okay.
Like stuff like that. And they have on display in the observatory a slice of a moon rock that the observatory was able to prove was actually a lunar meteorite and thus a real moon rock. And
Oh.
then like the rest of the moon rock got donated, but they got to keep a slice of it.
Uh-huh.
And they have a meteorite from the Campo del Cielo meteorite field in South America, which is this huge meteorite field.
Mm-hmm.
It is a 4.5 billion-year-old chunk of iron that fell to Earth in Central America 4,500 to 5,000 years ago. And the story of the meteor fall that created this field of meteorites was preserved in local indigenous lore for thousands of years and told to the Spaniards in the 16th century. And the Spaniards all said, well, whatever, this is all local legend and meaningless. And since then, science has demonstrated that no, the indigenous people around that meteorite fall site were 100% correct in the version of events that they preserved in their local lore.
Just imagine why don't you show us around? And there's our field where fire fell from the sky. Just being like, really? Yep.
Because we're trying to keep this not an hour and a half, I'm going to skip the part of the whole story where the Spaniards get told, oh, there's a field where there's like chunks of this metal. And then the Spaniards say, oh, they're hiding an iron mine from us. And they go up there and try to blast it apart with like dynamite. This was
sounds
later.
about right.
This was a little bit later. And then they're like, well, it turns out it's either not a vein of iron or we just blew apart a vein of iron, because it turns out there's a ton of chunks of iron everywhere. They don't even consider the possibility that the local people are just telling them the truth to begin with. So anyway, it's complicated, but suffice to say, the Willis Observatory has a chunk of meteorite from that meteorite fall.
Have I ever told you about my love of the moon rock at the Air and Space Museum in DC?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, if I'm in DC, I have to touch the moon rock because it came from space.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's free, takes 5 minutes. I don't care if I'm going to the museum or not. Got to run in, boop, touch the moon rock. All right, let's go. We can do something else now.
Yeah, I love it. So, Willis Observatory is currently closed due to the pandemic.
Sure.
And on their website, they say, okay, you can't come to events here. We're not booking private star parties, things like that, because of the pandemic. And they're very explicit. And they say, like, literally the page that you get taken to when you try to buy a ticket just says, everybody go get vaccinated and wear a mask. And like, let's get this dealt with. So points to them. But they say on their website that they are officially dedicated to the mission of, and I am going to find where in my notes it says this exactly because I want to make sure that I get it right. It is dedicated to the memory of the brother of one of the co-owners, a gentleman named Mike Willis.
Mm-hmm.
And they operate the observatory dedicated to advancing the values of diversity, inclusivity, and curiosity, which I think is really great. They run a whole bunch of like science education stuff locally, all kinds of neat stuff.
They are literally welcoming aliens. This aligns with the mission.
And you can read more about them at www.willisobservatory.com.
I want to go there. Like this. So like there's like I need to get a map out because I feel like there's a Bermuda Triangle of perfect places to stop in this area, right? So you do like a Brown Mountain. Maybe you spend some time at the observatory, and then maybe you go look for the Brown Mountain lights, and like, I don't know, maybe you do something else, and like, I don't know, it just lots of opportunity for cool, weird stuff.
Yeah. So I asked myself, how did this wind up in Bakersville? You know?
Yes, that is my question as well.
And it's partly because that general region of the mountains has some of the darkest night skies at highest elevations.
Okay.
It can easily be accessed.
Yep.
You know, there are higher mountains, there are higher elevations around, but it's harder to get to those. And there aren't people around those, and it would be harder to maintain a facility in those. And there are other facilities set up to take advantage of that in the area. In fact, nearby to Willis Observatory, operated by Mayland Community College, one county over, is what is called the Bear, B-A-R-E, named in honor of a family, the Bears, B-A-R-E. The Bear Dark Sky Observatory, which is the first International Dark Sky Association certified star park in the southeastern United States. It's literally an observatory on top of a hill that is kept dark. They don't have like lights and stuff, leading the way from the parking lot. Nothing. This is a dark sky observatory where the point is to find a place where it is as dark as possible to look at the natural night sky.
So this is a thing you can, if you're into this sort of thing, which I am, you can go, there's various websites that will have maps and you can search by, they have ways of rating the darkness of the sky depending on your location. So this is cool.
Yeah. Now, the Bear Dark Sky Observatory is operating again. They were not operating for a while. They are doing limited operations again now because they are limiting things, and they have some very strict protocols around things like after a person looks through a telescope, they need to wipe down the eyepiece, Then they limit the number of people who can show up on any given night to something like 20 or 25, depending on what they're doing that night. So you have to buy a ticket in advance. You have to buy a ticket knowing that it is entirely possible that a day out, they will say the weather conditions are not going to be favorable and they're going to cancel your ticket, things like that. You'll get a refund, all that. So there's a lot to take into account. They don't operate on nights when the moon is more than half full, because then the moon is too bright and it starts obscuring things that they want to point out. There are a lot of conditions under which they operate. So if you want to go to the Bear Dark Sky Observatory, you have to plan way ahead, is my point.
Certain months, I feel like they might get one night, right? Like during rainy season.
Yeah. And like on their own website, they say that really like the ideal time to go is basically late June, early October, which is not a huge slice of the year. So you're going to keep all that in mind. Just, keep all that in mind. But what they have there, they have a custom built 34-inch telescope, which is the largest in the southeastern United States that is dedicated to public use. If you want to go look through a 34-inch wide telescope, this is the place to do it.
That beats the pants off the one that I have. I have a little, I don't even know how wide the lens is, but it's nowhere close to that. That's awesome.
Yeah. They've also got a smaller 14-inch planetary telescope to look at planets in our solar system. Technically, the Bear Dark Sky Observatory is part of a larger park.
Okay.
And that park is open for operation even when the observatory is not. And they even say on their website, you can go there at night when we're not open if you want to, but keep in mind, the site is mostly accessible, but not entirely accessible. If you go to do the observatory part, then you have to be able to climb a couple of ladder rungs to get up to the eyepiece on the big telescope. But also, they don't have any lights to light up any of the walkways or anything like that. So if you go there at night, you're pulling into a place in the dark and there are no lights around. And even if you go for an event, they tell you wear closed toe shoes and all that jazz and bring flashlights, because there's not going to be any way to get up to the place if you don't have a flashlight with you, because you're not going to be able to see. Literally, you're just in the dark in the middle of nowhere on top of a hill.
That's great. I'm into this. This is a great place.
Yeah.
How did you? Okay, to keep going.
They also have 8 dedicated viewing stations around the place that are outside of the building where the telescopes are. And so even if the place isn't operating, or even if it is, if you've got a telescope that you have and you like, you can show up and set it up there and use it all you want.
Well, that's what I was thinking as you're describing this. And you're like, it's open to the public. I have a telescope. I want to go.
Yeah, totally. So it's really, really neat. And this is one of the things, that's one of the places that's taking advantage of these conditions. It's dark. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's a good mix of like, you're at a higher elevation, but you're not 5 hours from any place where there's people, things like that. And nearby, the town of Spruce Pine, population approximately 2,100. And I started to worry that was not correct anymore, because it's a 2010 figure. And then I looked at the historical numbers. The population of Spruce Pine has been approximately 2,100 since 1950. So it's a very stable population.
Take that bet. Let's go with 2,100.
Yeah. Spruce Pine has the annual Spruce Pine Alien Conference and Expo, aka Space, every year.
What?
Yeah. And the reason being is that this whole area is the hottest hotspot in North Carolina for UFO sightings. And North Carolina is in the top 10 for UFO sightings nationwide.
Michael, how are we not there?
This is an actual UFO hotspot with a UFO festival that includes everything from a costume contest to getting people who've written books to come and give speeches.
Well, put it on the calendar.
So the thing is, like, they didn't hold it last year for obvious reasons.
Sure.
I can't tell if they held it this year or not. They don't have a website for this expo. There's
you
a
have to look to the stars.
There's like a Facebook page for this expo, but there isn't any activity on it, so it's kind of hard for me to tell what the situation there is. But gotcha. It gets mentioned a lot, you know. Also, one of the reasons why this area is of interest to people who are enthusiastic about space, spruce pine is the source for the purest quartz crystal in the world. And for many, many, many years, the industry locally was not logging, it was not tobacco, and anything like that. It was mining of quartz crystal, because the quartz crystal is pure enough to use in things like the Hubble telescope, which contains quartz crystal from spruce pine, North Carolina.
Man, this is so cool. I had no idea that any of this was here.
Yeah. And that is my Thanksgiving episode, with the caveat that if I were going to use this in a story, if I were going to write a novel that included the Willis Observatory and the UFO landing pad, I would absolutely have aliens show up there, but they would not be showing up in their UFO and like landing on the landing pad. This would be like one of the must-see places for undercover aliens to go, you know, because like for us, it's like, it's funny and it's weird and it's like a fun little joke. And for them, this would be everything from an anthropology study to like a place they take people to prove that we're ready for them to talk to us, to a place they take people to prove that we're not ready, you know, like
right.
Name it. Like this would be the height of places for aliens to just go watch what we think of them without us knowing that they're in the room. I would absolutely need to use that in a story.
I need to go to this places, because you know the conference is separate from the dark sky location, is separate from the observatory.
Yeah,
so this is great, and it's all close to Brown Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing. It's been a while since we've done sort of a space or UFO thing. And I know we have some plans to do more on those topics in the future, but this was completely unexpected. I am so glad we did not talk about this topic in advance, because I am really excited now. Like, I'm going to talk about this at dinner tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so wild to me that these places exist, and I'd never heard of them. And I grew up, 2 counties away,
great.
But I've never heard of any of this stuff.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah. Back to your turkey, everyone.
All right. So here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you put the little crispy onions on top of the green beans or no?
We don't do green bean casserole. We just like roast green beans with garlic.
Yeah, us too. But do you put the little crispy onions on top? I guess that's a no.
If I were making a casserole, yes, absolutely.
So I put them on just the regular green beans, no casserole. And I'm just like, and you go on there. And then the little tin that they come in, I guess it's not a tin anymore, it's plastic, but the little container they come in, that container lasts for months afterwards. It's just like, well, what am I going to do with these? And like, you like throw them on a cheeseburger or something if it's like burger night. But like, other than that, they just sit there in the closet. Anyway, I'm really excited to re-up on my little crispy onions.
I'm just going to go ahead and confess that the last time we had a bag of little crispy onions like that, the way that they ended was me standing in the kitchen with a spoon.
There you go. I mean, they're fun, and they're sometimes food, right? Like,
yeah, they're like grown-up Funyuns.
Right. So, anyway, I'm excited about my sometimes food for Thanksgiving. Little crispy onions.
Now I'm just thinking of the Elvira Mistress of the Dark Scene, where she like stomps a bag of Fritos and then uses it to cover a casserole that turns into a horrible monster. And that's a scene from my family's Thanksgiving.
What we might have done this last year. Let's talk about a favorite dish or something. You mentioned the delightful sweet dessert item. What is a savory item that you look forward to every year?
Oh, I make pulled turkey barbecue. I cook a bone-in turkey breast in a crock pot, and that gets it real tender. And then I pull it or chop it like it's pork barbecue. And then I make 2 or 3 sauces. And so this year we're going to have that with vindaloo sauce. We're going to have gravy, and we're going to have like a more traditional gravy. And although it's a pretty spicy gravy, and homemade South Carolina style honey mustard barbecue sauce.
Nice. That sounds delightful. I generally do I got the recipe from, what is his name? The food TV guy, Alton Brown.
Okay.
I generally do the Alton Brown Good Eats turkey brine. Get the 5-gallon bucket. It's always gross every year because you got to make sure the bucket's clean, because it's definitely been sitting in the garage and being used for other things. You got to wash the bucket.
Right.
You got to stick the turkey in the bucket with all the ice, and then set the alarm for like 3:00 in the morning to wake up, walk outside, flip the turkey in the bucket, go back to bed, and then fry the turkey.
I have never done the deep fried turkey. That's not me. That's braver than I am.
It's fun, if you have a gravel driveway. I don't know.
Somewhere under all the grass, there's gravel in my driveway.
Right.
So, whatever.
I don't think I'd recommend it like on a deck or, on asphalt.
No.
Although
that might be a great way to signal the UFO.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the pageantry around my turkey process.
Yeah, okay, there's a story I'm not going to share. Never mind. Suffice to say, there have been circumstances in which my alarm going off at 3 a.m. to go replace the
I know this story.
To swap the turkeys in the crock pot resulted in a conversation about what exactly was happening in our house at 3 a.m.
You have told me that story.
Yes.
And, what is just, well, we'll keep this going because it's Thanksgiving stuff, and then I'll let you go. So one of my favorite, it was annoying as a kid, but as an adult, I actually look back on it fondly. I don't know if you have any memories like that, but I remember battling my aunt for the skin on the turkey when it would come out of the oven, like the skin. And picture small old-timey kitchen, right? And then like my aunt like smoking cigarettes and drinking her cider, and I'm like, get out of the way, and she's like, shut up, Charlie. all with love, right? But basically everyone, cousins, my grandmother, parents, siblings, everybody knew, like, basically, oh, just let them go at it. It's just like, no, I want that piece.
No, I don't really think we had much that we were expected to be on like super best behavior at all times. So
anyway, I really love memories of battling my Aunt Debbie for the really choice pieces of the crispy turkey skin.
It is really funny.
Anyway,
I think the closest is probably my nephews debating or competing to see who could eat the most deviled eggs.
I like deviled eggs, and no, it's the wish.com version of Cool Hand Luke.
Okay.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for watching. See us at www.
Oh yeah, we should do all that. Right?
I'm not gonna. And I can't edit it either.
We don't edit.
Yeah. Oh
Check
well.
us out. ArcaneCarolinas.com. We talk about aliens, monsters, ghosts, all sorts of weird stories, folklore, legends, modern weird. You can buy merch. We have shirts, and we're sold out of hoodies, but I have one. You can buy a hat. We'll mail you a sticker for free if you email us.
Email us at arcanecarolinas@gmail.com, and we will send you some stuff.
Yes, we are always happy to send out stickers and stuff for free.
Yeah. And you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram and all that jazz.
Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Google Play, Libsyn, and a whole bunch of people that we did not authorize to distribute our podcast that are doing it anyway.
Yeah, life goes on.
Yeah. For the fourth time, goodbye.
I'm going to stop recording.